A warm welcome to you, dear students. I'm sure you must be all very eagerly waiting for the English class. Let me begin by asking you a very simple question. How many of you love to have pets at home? And how many of you actually have pets at home? I'm sure many of you must be having a pet dog or a pet cat or maybe any other domestic animal as a pet. It's great to have a pet because you know that these pets are very valuable. They are really very loyal, faithful animals. The more you love your pet, the more will your pet love and respect you. Today, my dear students, we are going to read and understand a beautiful lesson from your textbook entitled Ashes That Made Trees Bloom. In the good old days of the daimyos, there lived an old couple whose only pet was a little dog. Having no children, they loved it as though it were a baby. This particular story is a Japanese tale which has been written during the time of the daimyos. They were the Japanese rulers. In this story, an old couple means a husband and a wife, and this old couple had a pet dog whom they loved very much. The old dame made it a cushion of blue crepe. Dame is the old lady. She made a small cushion. Cushion means a pillow. And at mealtime, Muko, for that was its name. Muko was the name of the pet dog. Muko would sit on it and snug as any cat. Muko would sit on the cushion and curl like the way a cat would do it. The kind people fed the pet with tidbits of fish. Tidbits means small pieces of fish from their own chopsticks and all the boiled rice it wanted. Thus treated the dumb creature, loved its protectors like a being with a soul. The old man, being a rice farmer, went daily with hoe or spade into the fields working. A spade is an instrument that is used in the fields for digging. Working hard from morning until Otento Sama. Otento Sama means the sun, as it is called in Japanese language, had gone down behind the hills. Every day the dog followed him to work, never once harming the white heron that walked in the footsteps of the old man to pick up the worms. For the old fellow was patient and kind to everything that had life. That means the old man was very patient with everything. That means with every animal or human being that possessed life, and often turned up a sword on purpose to give food to the birds. One day the dog came running to him, putting his paws against his legs and motioning with his head. Motioning means trying to tell the old man something by shaking his head to some spot behind. The old man at first thought his pet was only playing and did not mind it. But the dog kept on winning and running to and fro. The to and fro means in front and behind for some minutes. Then the old man followed the dog a few yards. That means the old man tried to go after the dog for a few minutes or for a little short distance to the place where the animal began a lively scratching. The dog started scratching the ground. Thinking it was possibly a buried bone or bit of fish, the old man struck his hoe in the earth, when lo, a pile of gold gleamed before him. Gleamed means shone. Shone means it was shining in front of him. Thus, in an hour, the old couple were made rich. The good souls bought a piece of land, made a feast for their friends, and gave plentifully to their poor neighbors. When this old couple got the pile of gold, they had a feast for their relatives and their friends, and they gave plentifully. Plentifully means they gave lots to their poor neighbors. As for the dog, they petted him till nearly smothered him with kindness. They started loving their dog more than before and made him feel very good. Now, in the same village, there lived a wicked old man and his wife. Wicked means very bad, not a bit sensitive and kind. Not a bit sensitive means they never felt for others, and they were not kind means they were very cruel, who had always kicked and scolded all dogs whenever any passed their house. This wicked old couple hated dogs. They would only scold them. Hearing of their neighbors' good luck, they coaxed the dog into their garden. Coaxed means they forced the dog to come into their garden and set before him bits of fish and other dainties. Dainties means tasty food, hoping that he would find treasure for them. But the dog, being afraid of the cruel pair means this cruel couple, would neither eat nor move. Since the dog was neither eating or tasting whatever they had offered him. Then they dragged him out of doors, taking a spade and hoe with them. No sooner had the dog got near a pine tree growing in the garden than he began to paw and scratch as if a mighty treasure sure lay beneath. Lay beneath means lay under. The old man said to his wife, "Hand me the spade and hoe," cried the greedy old fool as he danced with joy. Then the covetous old fellow, covetous means the greedy old man, with the spade and the old crone, crone means the old lady, with the hoe began to dig. But there was nothing but a dead kitten, the smell of which made them drop their tools and shut their noses. Furious at the dog, the old man kicked and beat him to death, and the old woman finished the work by nearly chopping off his head with the sharp hoe. They then flung him into the hole and heaped the earth over his carcass. Carcass means the dead body or the skeleton of the dog. The owner of the dog heard of the death of his pet and mourning for him as if he had been his own child. Mourning means feeling very sad. Went at night under the pine tree. He set up some bamboo tubes in the ground, such as are used before tombs. You must have seen in the olden days, people used to fence the grave of their dead ones with the help of bamboo sticks. So the old man put some bamboo sticks around the grave of the dog, in which he put fresh flowers. Then he laid a cup of water and a tray of food on the grave and burned several costly sticks of incense. Incense are the that give you nice smell when they are burnt. He mourned a great while over his pet, calling him many dear names as if he was alive. That night, the spirit of the dog appeared to him in a dream and said, "Cut down the pine tree over my grave and make from it a mortar for your rice pastry and a mill for your bean sauce." So the old man chopped down the tree. Chopped means cut down the tree and cut out of the middle of the trunk a section about 2 feet long with great labor. With great labor means with great hard work, partly by fire, partly by the chisel, chisel is an instrument that is used for cutting or scraping. He scraped out a hollow place as big as a small bowl. So, out of this pine tree, the old man made a bowl, and the bowl was of wood, and he made a long handled hammer of wood, such as is used for pounding rice. Pounding means hitting the rice in order to make it into a powder, the way nowadays we would put the rice into a mixer to grind it into a paste. When New Year's time drew near, he to make some rice pastry. Rice pastry means making some nice cakes of rice. When the rice was all boiled, Granny put it into the mortar. The old man lifted his hammer to pound the mass into dough. Dough means once the rice has been mixed with water, you get a ball which is known as the dough. And the blows fell heavy and fast till the pastry was all ready for baking. Suddenly, the whole mass turned into a heap of gold coins. You know that the dough, the ball of rice which they had made, had now turned into a big pile of gold coins. When the old woman took the hand mill and filling it with beans, began to grind, the gold dropped like rain. Meanwhile, the envious neighbor peeped in at the window. Envious means jealous. When the boiled beans were being ground, "Goody me!" cried the old hag as she saw each dripping of sauce turning into yellow gold, until in a few minutes the tub under the mill was full of a shining mass of gold. Tub means the container. So the old couple were rich again. The next day, the stingy and wicked neighbor came and borrowed the motor and the magic mill. Stingy means miserly. A miserly person is one who doesn't like to give anything that belongs to him or doesn't like to spend any money. They filled one with boiled rice and the other with beans. Then the old man began to pound and the woman to grind. But at the first blow and turn, the pastry and sauce turned into a foul mass of worms. Foul mass means something that smells and full of worms. Still more angry at this, they chopped the mill into pieces to use as firewood. Not long after that, the old good man dreamed again, and the spirit of the dog spoke to him, telling him how the wicked people had burned the mill and made from the pine tree. Take the ashes of the mill, sprinkle them on the withered trees. Withered trees means the trees of which all the leaves have fallen, and they will bloom again, said the dog spirit. The old man awoke and went at once to his wicked neighbor's house. Awoke means he got up, where he found the miserable old pair sitting at the edge of their square fireplace in the middle of the floor, smoking and spinning. From time to time they warmed their hands and feet with the blaze from some bits of the mill. Blaze means the fire, while behind them lay a pile of broken pieces. The good old man humbly asked for the ashes. Humbly means very politely and with great simplicity. Though the covetous couple turned up their noses at him and scolded him as if he were a thief. Thief means a robber. They let him fill his basket with the ashes. On coming home, the old man took his wife into the garden. It being winter, their favorite cherry tree was bare. He sprinkled a pinch of ashes on it, and lo, it sprouted. Sprouted means it got small leaves until it became a cloud of pink blossoms or blooms, which perfumed the air. Perfumed means gave a very good smell. The news of this filled the village, and everyone ran out to see the wonder. The covetous couple also heard the story, and gathering up the remaining ashes of the mill, kept them to make withered tree blossom. The kind old man, hearing that his lord, the daimyo, was to pass along the high road near the village, set out to see him, taking his basket of ashes. As the train approached, he climbed up into an old withered cherry tree that stood by the wayside. Now, in the days of the daimyos, it was the custom, when their lord passed by, for all the loyal people to shut up their high windows. They even pasted them fast with a slip of paper so as not to commit the impertinence of looking down on his lordship. Impertinence means lack of respect. All the people along the road would fall upon their hands and knees and remain prostrate. Prostrate means lying on the ground with face towards the ground until the procession passed by. The train drew near. One tall, competent man marched ahead, crying out to the people by the way, "Get down on your knees, get down on your knees," and everyone kneeled down while the procession was passing. Suddenly, the leader of the van caught sight of the aged man up in the tree. He was about to call out to him in an angry tone, but seeing he was such an old fellow, he pretended not to notice him and passed him by. So when the daimyo's palanquin drew near the old man, palanquin is a type of a carriage that is used to carry kings and queens in the olden days. As the palanquin drew near, the old man, taking a pinch of ashes from his basket, scattered it over the tree. Scattered means to throw all over. In a moment, it burst into blossoms. The delighted daimyo ordered the train to be stopped and got out to see the wonder. Calling the old man to him, he thanked him and ordered presents of silk, robes, sponge, fans, cake, and other rewards to be given him. He even invited him to his castle. So the old man went gleefully home to share his joy with his dear old wife. Gleefully means happily. But when the greedy neighbor heard of it, he took some of the magic ashes and went out on the highway. There he waited until a daimyo's train came along, and instead of kneeling down like the crowd, he climbed a withered cherry tree. When the daimyo himself was almost under him, he threw a handful of ashes over the tree, which did not change a particle. Particle means even a small bit. The wind blew the fine dust in the noses and eyes of the daimyo and his wife. Such sneezing and choking. It spoiled all the pomp and dignity of the procession. The man whose business it was to cry, "Get down on your knees," seized the old fool by the collar, dragged him from the tree, and tumbled him and his ash basket. Dragged means pulled him into the ditch by the road. Then, beating him soundly, he left him for dead. Thus, the wicked old man died in the mud, but the kind friend of the dog dwelt in peace and plenty, and both he and his wife lived to a green old age. Green old age means a very long old age. Thank you, dear students, for listening.